Who do you care for? Children? A disabled child? A partner who's unwell or emotionally unreliable? A parent? Perhaps one who never really knew how to parent you, but now relies on you to parent them. As midlife women, we are probably caring for someone. And that someone, it's probably not ourselves. Because we tend to be the ones holding it all together. And when you are the one who keeps everything going, your needs, they drop to the bottom of the list. They're not erased, they're just endlessly postponed until something breaks. Welcome to the Feminine Duality. This is a space for the women who have lost themselves in the wreckage of real life and are ready to come back stronger, louder, funnier, and unapologetically whole. I'm Tova. I'm a midlife woman juggling far too many things. I have burnt out twice, I've clawed my way back twice, and now I'm taking back my life. And I'm here to share with you that that's possible. 5 years ago, I was a married woman and a working mom. I have 2 daughters. My oldest is now almost 12, and she has severe disabilities and very complex medical needs. She requires a minimum of one-to-one care at all times, and she comes with more admin and appointments in a month than most people deal with in a decade. And then I have my younger daughter, who is now 8. And she's a very typical young girl, which means that she comes with all the needs that a typical young girl has. She needs her mom, she needs her friends, she needs to be outside and run around, she needs the playground, she needs to feel grown up, and she needs to be a little child. 5 years ago, I was working full-time in a media firm in London. I was either commuting 2 hours each way to go into the office, or I was working from home, which basically meant trying to manage a team whilst managing constant interruptions. And my husband was a stay-at-home dad, and so he stayed at home. And to be perfectly honest, that's all he really did. Everything else fell on me. I was the family project manager. I planned and coordinated everything. Meals, medications, MOTs, hospital appointments, cleaning, the laundry list. If something needed to be done, I was the one doing it. You name it, it was mine. And eventually it stopped being possible. I couldn't keep going the way I was. And so I left. I ended my marriage. 4 weeks after that, I moved into my own place. And the real kicker, 2 weeks later, I was made redundant from my very reliable and comfortable City London job. And you know what? That was when I burnt out. Not while I was still managing everything, not while I was spinning plates with both hands and 1 foot, not while I was in the middle of the thick of it, but after, when I could finally slow down, when I was able to sit down and go, how do I feel? The answer came back, I feel like shit. And I crashed. I burnt out when I could finally let go. Because when you're in it, when you're in the thick of surviving, you don't have time to crash. You don't fall apart while you're running. You fall apart when you stop. And you know what the real irony in all of this is? One of the main reasons I ended my marriage was because I recognized that my children needed one parent who was functioning. They needed one parent who wasn't a washout. One parent who could be there for them, whole. And there I was, completely and utterly broken. I had finally made the choice to protect my children by protecting myself, and I crashed. And now it was just me and the girls. Not all the time, they live with their dad, they're with me part-time, but those times they were with me, I had nobody else to lean on. Not even a useless parent I could turn to and say, you have to take them because I have to go and cry in the bathroom for 10 minutes. I had just me. I couldn't go and cry in the bathroom for 10 minutes. And no one else was coming to take those 10 minutes. I had to heal. I had to learn to care for myself because the option to keep falling apart, it just wasn't there. I wrote an article for Balanced Menopause, and I wrote this particular line, and I feel that it still very much holds. When you care for others, especially someone who is completely dependent on you, it's all too easy to forget to care for yourself. I had forgotten to care for myself, and I had to learn how to do it. Now, I have a bit of an issue with the concept of self-care, particularly when it's handed to women who are already stressed out and stretched thin, as if it's a solution. You know the tone. When somebody comes up to you and say, you really need to take some time out for self-care. I mean, that's not advice. That is not helpful. That is yet another impossible to do on an already far too long to-do list. It's patronizing. It's an assumption that somehow you just have time lying around waiting to be filled with, oh, I don't know, scented candles and bubble baths. Or maybe some yoga. And I really don't believe that is what self-care is. You know, for me, learning to look after myself, it started with antidepressants. It had gotten so far that I could not help myself without a bit of extra support. And I went on antidepressants for a while. And then I came off the antidepressants and I realized that I wasn't just depressed. I probably wasn't depressed at all, but I was perimenopausal. And there is no antidepressant in the world that's gonna fix that hormonal roller coaster. And so I did something that I very, very rarely do, and I made a doctor's appointment for myself. Not for my daughter, for me. I asked to see a women's health specialist. I went in, we talked about perimenopause, we talked about HRT, she gave me a prescription, I walked out of there and I cried in the car. And that's when things started to shift. Getting support, getting the HRT. And over time, I started to feel like maybe I could actually move upwards, not just onwards. And I had to learn what self-care actually is. Because at first, I had treated self-care as a chance to clean the kitchen on my own without anybody asking me for a snack. I mean, come on, don't tell me you haven't done this. And let's get something incredibly straight here. Your partner taking the kids to the playground so that you can clean the house, that's not self-care. That is basic, decent division of labor. That's called living in a shared space. You know what else isn't self-care? Going to the supermarket by yourself. A supermarket shop on your own, that's not a spa day. It's not me time. It's a list and a trolley and more than likely a headache. It's not self-care. It's logistics with slightly less screaming and begging for treats. And what about a bubble bath with a glass of Prosecco? That can be self-care. Or it can be fizzy escapism while you dissociate and stare into blank space. Self-care is doing something that recharges you. And yes, sometimes that is a bubble bath. And sometimes it's singing or painting, you know, doing something creative. If you're somebody who loves cooking, it might be spending hours in the kitchen to create something beautiful and delicious and completely unnecessary just for the joy of it. A clean house? Oh yeah, a clean house is most definitely self-care. Cleaning it yourself? Maybe not. Hiring a cleaner? Now that could be self-care. Because self-care isn't a thing. Self-care is a feeling. It's a way to restore yourself. It is a moment that says, I matter too. And to claim that you matter for more than just your output. More than just for what you give. More than just the amount of patience you have. And by now, I'm guessing your patience is probably wearing rather thin. Self-care isn't about aesthetics. It's about recognizing that your humanity matters. So yes, I'd had a period of being on antidepressants, and then I went on hormone replacement therapy. And from there, it was the slow reclamation of my day-to-day that really started to shift things. Yes, the doctor's appointment mattered. Being taken seriously mattered. The hormone replacement therapy, oh, it definitely mattered. But healing did not end with those things. And it wasn't some dramatic, sudden glow-up. It was little, tiny, consistent things that helped to revive me and bring me back to myself. One of them was journaling. I'm a huge fan of a bullet journal, and I'm an even bigger fan of gratitude journaling. Every day, write down 3 good things. And they don't have to be big. Actually, the smaller they are, the better. The taste of that first sip of coffee in the morning. It's a tiny thing, but you know what? It is so big. The sun shining, going to a coffee shop with a friend, or waking up, suddenly feeling like you can get out of bed today with hope. Those are things that I write in my gratitude journal. And it's a practice that I have been doing for years. It works wonders. It has rewired my brain to look for the good instead of constantly being stuck in what is not working or what is draining me or how awful I feel. I learned about nervous system regulation, about the importance of the vagus nerve, of these evolved reactions that we have that feels like they're out of our control, the fight or flight or fawn response. I learned how to remind my body that it was not in danger. I did grounding exercises. I breathed deeper. And slowly over time, I started to feel like I was living inside my body again, living in it, not just trying to manage it. I did other things too. I cut out people from my life. I cut out the people who drained me, and I kept the ones who filled me up, and those were the ones I focused on in that time and who I leaned on in that time. None of these were huge changes, but they were consistent, and over time they have built up to something really big. And I'm here to tell you that self-care, real self-care, is a practice. It is something that grows with you, and it becomes easier for every day that you keep doing it. It is how you remind yourself day after day that you are somebody worth caring for, and that you don't just have to care for everybody else. I had to learn, painfully, that being the carer doesn't exclude me from having to care for myself. That it's not selfish to carve out space for myself. Or that perhaps being a bit selfish isn't a bad thing. It's not indulgent. It is non-negotiable. Because the brutal truth is that when you are the carer, nobody is coming to care for you. No one is going to swoop in and say, oh my God, you look tired. You look like you're not coping. Here, let me take over for a while and give you a break. Because when you're the carer, you look more capable than everybody else around you. No matter how badly you're falling apart on the inside, you look like Superwoman to the world. And that is something I have been told so many times. Oh my God, you are Superwoman. I'm not Superwoman. I just have people who can't function if I don't function for them. But that doesn't mean that I'm amazing. And it doesn't mean that I don't need a bit of extra support myself. But as nobody else was doing that for me, I had to wring that extra support out from myself. Piece by piece, little by little, choice by choice. I had to look at myself and say, you know what? No one is coming to save you. You're going to have to be the one saving yourself. If this episode made you pause, nod, or even think, oh, fuck, that's me, then the Feminine Duality is where you belong. I will show up every week on YouTube, podcast platforms, and on Instagram and TikTok. Subscribe to the Feminine Duality. Follow, share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, and most importantly, tell me, what was your moment? The one where you realized that you just cannot keep going on living on empty. Drop me a message or a comment, because self-care starts when we stop pretending that we don't need it.